Journalistic integrity is a cornerstone of the United States. What stands against journalistic integrity is a failure of journalistic integrity, which results in pseudo-journalists who propagate negative memes on the internet, which violate individual dignity, which violate truth, justice, which violate the American way. Because the American way is about the dignity of the individual story, about the protection of the individual, about gathering information through careful fact-checking, adducing evidence, checking both sides. But when journalistic integrity disappears and we have negative meme propagation, which begins to happen unconsciously, it just proliferates, right? Then we lose our ability to actually honor the dignity of every individual story, to gather information in a way that has integrity, and to actually create a public culture, right? A virtual culture, which is actually awake, right? And filled with goodness, filled with intimacy, filled with integrity. This can affect anyone. Anyone can be distorted. There can be an attempt to destroy anyone, right? Any persona can be maligned. False narratives can be perpetrated on the web with very little recourse. I've spent my life trying to affirm the dignity of personal story. And I've seen, right, over the last decade or so, the weaponizing of personal story, the degradation of a personal story, the distortion of personal story, right, as one of the core features, right, of our Western internet culture. We have to actually take a huge stand against it, because taking that stand is to affirm the core principles, right, that every story matters, that every story is dignified, that every story needs to be told honestly, right? That facts need to be honored. Every story needs to be celebrated and received, which lies at the heart, right, of what it means to be a citizen, right, of this great republic. I'm going to give you one fast, short story. Court Dreesen. I don't know him. I'm sure he's a lovely human being, 18 years old approximately, writing for the Badger Herald out of Madison, Wisconsin. He writes about John Mackey, the CEO of Whole Foods. He says, John Mackey's proved, right, that famous people in this country are allowing a rape culture to exist. Now, we all stand against rape culture. John Mackey is, right, I know, one of the people who stands most powerfully against any form of sexual violence and rape culture. But Court Dreesen, right, did a quick apparent Google search on the web, didn't check his information, and just wrote it down, and then added some fabrications of his own, probably part of his own journalistic flourish, and look what he produced. Here are the sentences. This is a recent article in January in the Badger Herald. Quote, Mackey released a statement last June pledging loyalty to his friend Mark Goffney, an ex-rabbi accused of child molestation and using his position to extort children. Wow, Goffney must be a pretty bad guy, right? It's some rabbi accused of child molestation using his position to extort children. And then it says that Goffney said about one of his young accusers, like, listen to this, and this guy's a scumbag, right? She was 14 going on 35 and I never forced her. So we got some rabbi molesting children and then using his position to extort children and then justifying it by saying she was 14 going on 35 and I never forced her. And then, right, court writes, in response, 130 activists, students, and professors signed an open letter to Whole Foods imploring them and Mackey to open a dialogue concerning sexual violence and rape. So Mackey's now portrayed, and Whole Foods is portrayed as being, somehow complete insensitive, right, and, deaf. So they've got to be implored, right, to open a dialogue concerning sexual violence and rape. The only problem is the story is entirely not true. There's actually been several articles written. They're all easily available, searching Mark Goffney's name on the web, which completely debunked the story. And Court Dreesen never bothered to look, right? What's the exact story? The story actually is that Mark Goffney was a teenager when he met a woman named Sarah, right? He was 19. They have a short relationship. Sarah's 14, right, during the period of a relationship. She's in her first year of high school. He's right out of high school. The sum total, validated by expert polygraph, a gentleman named Dr. Gordon Barland, who's the head of polygraph research at the Department of Defense, the former director, right, actually validates in a number of questions about this Goffney's version. We're talking about teenage necking. We're talking about two teenagers who at the time were in love, and that was Sarah's experience at the time is validated by a love letter that she sent to Goffney after the relationship was over. and the existence of that letter and Goffney's version of the events, again, supported by expert polygraph. Goffney's written about this extensively, 2 major articles. There's at least 4 other articles going through all the details of the story. Has nothing to do with what Cort Dreesen wrote. When you read Cort Dreesen's story, he's telling a story about a rabbi molesting children, using his position to extort children. It's fabricated, made up. Extorting children, made it up. Using his position to extort children, made it up. The impression you would get, some 45, 50-year-old rabbi, right, is going around, right, extorting children, molesting children. Never happened, not true. Cort Dreesen didn't bother to check. And then the last piece of the story about these 130 people are now protesting this heinous act, actually not true either. Actually, these 130 people were organized, right, by people involved in a smear campaign against Goffney. Extensive articles have been written about that smear campaign, including one by Dr. Clint Fuse. And you'll find all these articles and links to them at the bottom of this video. And all Cort Dreesen had to do was do a little information, do a little searching. None of the 130 people who signed that petition had any information. They were doing knee-jerk internet activism, propagating a negative meme. So they propagate a negative meme because they get contacted and they said, hey, wow, there's this story about, child molestation, sexual abuse. They don't check information, all of which is available on the web. They lend their names. They propagate a negative meme. Then Cort Dreesen looks it up and says, wow, these 130 people did this petition. Must be true. Doesn't check, and he propagates it again. Wow. What happens? What's the result? The utter depersonalization that takes place in the web. Right? Goffney doesn't exist as a person. Right? He's some archetype of negativity. No checking, no fact checking, no evidence. What happens here? Negative meme propagation, right, replaces, right, core journalistic integrity. And I want to just tell you, right, one thing. How do I know this? Because my name is Mark Goffney. It's not true. It's been written about extensively. I've spent my life fighting for the dignity of personal story. I've spent my life standing against sexual harassment, standing against people being sexually abusive in any shape or form, standing against rape culture in all of its forms. But this is actually a form of what's been called by the early feminists name rape. And I don't want to actually attack Cort. I'm sure Cort's a wonderful young man. And people on my team, right, have tried and will continue to try to reach out to Cort and have a conversation to do for him what he never did for me. But it's not about me and it's not about Cort. It's about all of us. It's about all of us taking personal story seriously, taking the dignity of personal story seriously, taking the responsibility to repersonalize the web and make it a place of digital intimacy and not digital abuse. That's the invitation. Right, let's do it together.